Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Get comfortable because sometimes betrayal does not hide in a hotel room or a secret phone. Sometimes it raises a paddle in front of 200 people and makes you pay for it. My name is Evelyn Hard. 3 months ago, at a charity auction I had spent 6 months organizing, my husband stood on stage and sold a private dinner with the chef to a woman named Marissa for $50,000. Everyone applauded. I did too. What nobody in that ballroom knew was that Marissa was his mistress, and the $50,000 had come from our joint account. My husband Grant and I had been married 17 years. We met in our 30s, after both of us had already learned enough about life to appreciate a quiet, steady person. Grant worked in corporate development for a regional hotel group. I was the executive director of a children's arts foundation, a small nonprofit that funded music rooms, theater programs, and visual arts teachers in underfunded public schools. We did not have children. In the early years, we told ourselves that gave us freedom. We traveled. We worked. We built a beautiful home and a life that looked generous from the outside. We hosted dinners. We donated to causes. We knew the names of the waiters at our favorite restaurant. I thought a good life meant we were good people inside it. Every spring, my foundation held its biggest fundraiser, the Bright Futures Gala. It was held at the Calder Hotel downtown, under glass chandeliers and a painted ceiling that made everyone look more important than they were. We sold tables to local businesses, invited donors, served dinner, and held a live auction at the end of the night. The money we raised kept after-school arts programs open for another year. It bought instruments, paint, stage lights, and salaries for teachers who were always asked to do too much with too little. I cared about it deeply. Grant had always attended. He knew the right people, made donors feel welcome, and had a polished way of talking about the foundation's work that made strangers reach for their checkbooks. For years, I saw him as my partner in all of it. The man who carried extra auction catalogs, remembered the names of major sponsors, and kissed my forehead when I got too anxious before a speech. Looking back, I realized that the people best at appearing supportive often know exactly where to stand, so everyone can see them. The first strange thing happened 2 months before the gala. Grant came home later than usual, loosened his tie, and stood in the kitchen while I sorted place cards at the counter. "How is the auction shaping up?" he asked. "Good," I said. Chef Armand agreed to donate a private dinner. It should do well. Private dinner where? At the restaurant. 6 guests, wine pairing, the usual. He paused for half a second too long. That could bring in serious money. That's the idea. At the time, I thought he was proud of me. Later, I understood he was calculating. Around that same time, Grant began mentioning a woman from his office more often. "Marissa is helping with the new hospitality account." Marissa had a good idea in the meeting. Marissa knows someone who might donate wine. I never met her. Her name appeared in conversation just enough to sound normal, but never enough for me to ask a real question. That is how some secrets enter a marriage. Not through a dramatic lie, through repetition disguised as routine. The gala arrived on a Saturday in April. By 4 in the afternoon, I was at the Calder Hotel checking centerpieces, testing microphones, and asking our auction coordinator why Table 12 had suddenly acquired a third dietary restriction. Grant arrived around 6 in a black tuxedo and kissed me on the cheek. "You look incredible," he said. "You clean up well yourself." He smelled like a cologne he had not worn in years, something sharper than usual, something expensive. I noticed it. Then I moved on, because I had a room full of donors arriving and a foundation depending on my ability to smile. The evening began beautifully. The quartet played near the entrance. Donors stood under the chandeliers with champagne glasses. Children from one of our music programs performed a short piece before dinner, and half the room cried exactly where I hoped they would. People applauded. Checks were promised. The room felt full of possibility. And somewhere in that room, my husband was building another life behind my back. I first saw Marissa near the silent auction tables. She was tall, elegantly dressed, and wearing a black gown that looked almost severe against the warm gold lighting. She stood beside Grant near a display of donated travel packages. They were not touching. They were not doing anything a stranger could call inappropriate. But Grant leaned toward her when she spoke. He gave her his full attention in a way I recognized immediately, because for 17 years I had believed that attention belonged to me. "Who is that?" I asked our development coordinator, Nia, as casually as I could. Marissa Vale, she said. Grant invited her. She purchased a table sponsorship at the last minute. Very generous. Did she? Nia smiled. Yes, $5,000. It came through right before the deadline. $5,000. I knew every major donation that entered my foundation, but I did not know every outgoing transfer from my own marriage. I nodded as if nothing had changed. That was the first moment I understood something was wrong. Dinner ended at 10. Our auctioneer, a local television host with perfect teeth and a voice designed to make wealthy people compete, stepped onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the magic happens. The first few items went quickly: a Napa weekend, courtside basketball tickets, a signed guitar, a mountain cabin. Donations rose, people laughed, paddles lifted into the air. The foundation was having one of its best nights in years. Then the auctioneer introduced lot number 14. A private dinner for 6 with Chef Armand Bellier, a 7-course tasting menu, private wine pairing, and a night you will not forget. The bidding opened at 10,000. Do I have 10? A paddle went up. 15? Another paddle. 20?
Grant stood near the side of the stage, helping the auction team track bids.
He looked directly at Marissa. Marissa lifted her paddle. 30? A man at table 7 bid. 35. Marissa raised her paddle again. I watched Grant's face. He was smiling, but it was not the public smile he used for donors. It was private, familiar, proud. $40,000 for dinner with Chef Armand, the room murmured. 45. Marissa lifted her paddle without looking at anyone else. $50,000. The ballroom erupted in applause. Sold! To Marissa Vale at table 18. Grant walked toward her table to congratulate her. He did not hug her. He did not kiss her. He only bent close enough to say something in her ear, but her hand touched his wrist beneath the tablecloth. I saw it, and suddenly the entire ballroom became very quiet inside my head. I finished the evening. I thanked donors. I posed for photographs. I spoke with the school superintendent. I stood on stage and announced that, because of their generosity, the foundation had raised more than $700,000. Everyone applauded. I smiled. I have learned that there is a special kind of calm that comes when your heart is too busy breaking to allow panic. At midnight, Grant and I rode home in the same car. That was a remarkable bid, I said. Marissa is very passionate about the arts. Apparently, he looked out the window. She has resources. Does she? He turned toward me. What is that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said. I'm tired. He slept quickly when we got home. I did not. At 1:30 in the morning, I opened our joint banking app. The account was not complicated. We paid the mortgage from it, utilities, insurance, household expenses. And because Grant handled our investments, I had fallen into the habit of trusting that he would tell me if anything major changed. I scrolled backward through the previous 6 weeks. There it was, a transfer of $5,000 to the Bright Futures Foundation. Marissa's last-minute table sponsorship. The payment had come from our joint account. Then another transaction, 4 days before the gala. A wire transfer of $50,000 to an account ending in 8819. The account holder name was not listed in the banking app, but the transfer memo was. MV Personal, Marissa Vale. I took screenshots. I downloaded statements. I did not wake Grant. Then I checked the credit card history. Hotel charges, dinner receipts, ride shares to neighborhoods Grant never visited for work, a jewelry boutique in December, and 3 payments to a luxury apartment building downtown, all labeled as consulting reimbursement. By sunrise, I had stopped wondering whether Grant was having an affair. I was trying to understand how long he had been funding it with our life. Monday morning, I called an attorney. Her name was Danielle Roark. She specialized in family law and financial disclosure, and she had a way of listening that made people stop performing their pain. I brought her the statements, the screenshots, and the gala program with Marissa's name circled in black ink. Danielle reviewed everything quietly. Do not move money, she said. Do not confront him yet. Do not access accounts that are not yours. We will document what you legally have access to and make sure you are protected. Can I find out where the $50,000 went? We can. Danielle brought in a forensic accountant named Esther Wu. Esther traced the joint account transfers, public business records, and the expenses Grant had disguised as work reimbursements. Within 9 days, she found that the money had been sent to a newly created consulting company registered to Marissa's sister. The company had no website, no clients, no office, no business activity beyond receiving money connected to Grant. The 50,000 had moved into that account 2 days before Marissa raised her paddle at the auction. Grant had funded the winning bid himself. He had used $50,000 from our joint account to make his mistress look like a generous donor at my charity event. He had taken money meant for our future, passed it through her family, and stood beside the stage while 200 people applauded her. I wish I could say I cried when Esther told me. I didn't. I felt empty for about a minute. Then I felt organized. The following week, Danielle filed for divorce and requested temporary orders to preserve marital assets. At the same time, my board's independent finance committee reviewed the gala donation records. I disclosed only what was necessary. There was a potential conflict involving a donor, and I needed the foundation's finances examined independently. I did not use the charity to punish Grant. I protected it from becoming part of his deception. The committee discovered that Marissa's $5,000 sponsorship and $50,000 auction payment had technically cleared, but the source trail raised serious questions. Under the foundation's rules, questionable donations could not be accepted without verification. The board placed the funds on hold and removed Marissa's name from the public donor list pending review. The gala brochure had called her a champion for young artists. By Friday, her name was gone. Grant was served at his office that same afternoon. He called me within 20 minutes. "Evelyn, what have you done?" "I filed for divorce. Over a misunderstanding, over one transfer, over your affair, over the apartment, over the jewelry, over using $50,000 from our joint account to buy your mistress an applause break at my fundraiser." There was nothing on the line for several seconds. Marissa didn't know. She knew enough to raise a paddle for money you sent 2 days earlier. "You don't understand our relationship." "I understand it perfectly. You needed her to look generous, you needed me to look unaware, and you needed my work to decorate the lie." "I never meant to hurt you." That is what people say when they made plans that required hurting someone else. I ended the call. The divorce lasted 10 months. The forensic records mattered. They showed that Grant had diverted marital money into an arrangement designed to conceal its real destination. The downtown apartment was sold. The money moved through Marissa's sister's company was accounted for in the settlement. Grant retained his personal investments, but he could no longer pretend the joint account had been his private resource. Marissa disappeared from the foundation circles quickly. Her name was not announced as a donor. Her dinner with Chef Armand never happened. The lot was re-auctioned privately to another bidder, and the foundation received a legitimate donation from someone who actually wanted to support children. Grant moved into a rental apartment across town. A year later, I attended the opening of a new music room at Franklin Elementary. There were bright blue chairs, donated instruments, and a little girl who played Ode to Joy on a violin with only 3 strings still intact. Her teacher cried. So did I. Not because I was thinking about Grant, because I finally understood that the good work I had done was never dependent on the person standing beside me at the gala. He used my event to make his affair look glamorous. But he could not take away what the event was really for. Sometimes people ask whether I regret uploading that night. I don't, because while Grant thought he was buying Marissa a victory, he was actually giving me the first clean thread that unraveled everything. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real family stories, and tell us in the comments, would you have confronted Grant at the auction or waited until you knew exactly where the money came from?
Play cards on the dashboard glow. Half read text in my phone. Split screens, two different worlds, both of them calling me home. I pour another promise out, let it sit beside the throne. Ask myself who I'd be if I ever logged off and rode alone. Yeah, I'm trying to turn distance into discipline. Trying to turn these mixed signals to a signal I can live with again. You said you only honest when you talking through a synonym. That's just how it look when every story got a villain in it then. Monster tell me, boy, remember where you started from. But every time I fly back, it feel more like another one. Childhood street, looking small in the rear view. Same park, same hoop, but I'm barely who I was to you. Labels want a version that they met in 20-something. Winning want the version who was hurt but still would love them. Bros want the version that was down for any nothing. I'm somewhere in between all of them, that's the real discussion. You say my trust got a password I don't share now. I say your luck got conditions I can't bear now. You call it distance, I call it protecting my fair ground. Cause every time I opened up, you turned it to a stare down. You say that I changed, I say I just learned the price. You say that we close, I feel like we're miles apart tonight. You blame what I post, I'm thinking about what I hide. Funny how the truth feels safer when it's trapped between the lines. Tell me how I'm supposed to choose sides when both sides mine. One hand on the past, other hand on a new lifeline. Told you I'd be there, then I missed it on a red-eye flight. Now you only hear my name when you halfway tight. I've been trying to draw a line without cutting you out. Trying to build a real life while I'm living off doubt. You say it ain't that deep, but you swimming in pride. We both stared at the same thing, just saw different sides. I used to share passwords, now I share access. Whole circle upgraded, that invite ain't mass text. Heard you talking about me like I lost what I had next. Truth is I left some things cause peace had to have rent. We used to talk nights till the birds made a soundtrack. Now you send a voice note just to say you won't bounce back. Said I left you unread, you left me on the same track. Playing victim cause the mirrors show you all the same cracks. Penthouse view but the floor's still creaking. New watch on but the time feel weakened. Nothing more loud than to find you speaking. Every do what you want really mean don't leave me. I know the game, I made some plays that I still regret. Kept receipts in my head, not a single threat. You just want a version of me that you never met. Someone who can heal what you never checked. If love is a house, we painted over the leaks. Covered all the stains, never fixed what's underneath. You say that you gave, I remember what it cost me. Every hug felt like a contract you could cross me. We grew up on stories where the hero never bends, but nobody told us how the hero loses friends. Took your name on my phone just to see if it hurt less. Still tied it in by habit, that's the part I ain't confessed. Tell me how I'm supposed to choose sides when both sides mine. One hand on the past, other hand on a new lifeline. You say it's on me, I say just how the climb feels high. Pressure make a gym or it make a goodbye. I've been trying to draw a line without cutting you out. Trying to build a real life while I'm living off doubt. If we never talk again, hope you still find peace. Even if you tell the story like I left you in pieces. If you ever scroll back through the moments that we saved, you gon' see a younger me who didn't know what he became. If I ever cross your mind when the noise finally fades, just remember, all that distance was the only thing I gave that I ain't take from you.